Okay, I'm sure that everyone else who's coming will join us. So good morning to everybody who is here today to discuss the book Psychology of Selling. I know that it's been a very enlightening week so far. For me, I think I'd read it at some point. I've forgotten which year, but going back to it, has really been helpful. And I've been saying to myself over and over again that it's so good that as a Kelvin, brought it up for us to read again because the nuggets are very, very useful to me at this time, right? And then there's something I've been saying that these things apply not only to business, but then I think that across life as general. As different teachers see that all of us are salesmen in one way or the other, right? I think last week too, that like Kelvin mentioned something like that. So basically, the lessons are not only for business, but then if we apply them, right, there's something like goal setting, which runs throughout life, right? And I remember this particular point where he mentioned that if we set goals, like if we take it up, okay, that for the next year or the next 6 months, we are going to really be consistent about setting goals in the morning, and then, finding different ideas to make things better. He said that within the next 6 to 12 months, our lives can really, really improve remarkably. And I was thinking that, yes, so it's kind of principles for life, right? Not just principles for sales, because if we set goals in our lives and then set action steps in our lives and then ask ourselves 20 questions of how we can do better, definitely our general lives, from work to school to business will also improve. Yeah, so it's a really good read so far. And maybe I'll ask Lolonyo, so how has the book been for you? What are some key things that you've gotten yourself?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's basically nothing specifically new, apart from the fact that this is specifically for um, selling and the psychology of it and how to go about it. I like the way um, he broke down every step as to what to do and how to do it, starting with the work on the inner self, your mindset, yeah, to your appearance and attitude, to your relation with the customer. It's like a course. That's how I'll put it.
Mm-hmm.
It feels more like a course, going through a course for selling than a book. So I like
So
the way
true.
I like the way he was able to break down every step as to what to do, how to do it, when to do it. It's just amazing. It gives me the feeling of me going to a marketing school or a sales school than
Mhm.
actually reading. Yeah, so that's the overall feel I get from reading the book. Yeah, yeah.
So true, so true. I mean, it makes you feel just as you're saying, as if you are going through a course. And I guess that the course is very important for all areas of our lives. So he really took time, I mean, to discuss, the importance of dressing, how it has an effect on our psychology. There's this particular example where he mentioned that some individuals set up an office or so. I think that they were working from home initially, they went set up an office, and then they got, some equipment and they put it in the office. And when, customers were coming, they went to ask Brian Tracy and was like, maybe it's something with their office. And then, so truly, I think they found out at the end of the day that he said they had second grade furniture, and so Brian Tracy said this was the reason why people went coming to patronize them, because they didn't, look like or have that vibe, that people want to have, So that really reminded me, of in terms of right dressing, right? So he said that people want to, talk to somebody, who appears like really, really good dressed and then all that, right? So I was like, oh yeah, so that's a very, very important principle, for life in general. And maybe I'll ask Dr. Kelvin. Dr. Kelvin, so how has the book been for you? How has your week been too? I don't know if Dr. Kelvin is connected to audio because I'm not seeing his microphone. Okay, so maybe while we are sharing, then there's some other things I can share as well. So I guess then chapter 4, there's something I mentioned last week, which this week I think I read this again, where he was speaking about creativity, and where he was saying that if we are to constantly ask ourselves for 20 times each day, that how can we do better in our sales profession, we're going to get different ideas. And interestingly, he said that maybe number 1 to 19 is not really, like 100%, but then when we get to the point 20, because at that time we'll have asked ourselves so many questions. Definitely question 20 will be, oh, sure. Okay, sure. That's like a well noted, safe trip. So definitely chapter 20 will be, oh, sorry, point 20 rather, will be, something that's a sweet spot, something that will definitely, strike something. Because imagine if we wrapped up ways from point 1 to point 19, definitely point 20 will try to be the killer point, right? And it will definitely give us some new ideas that we can use in our business, right? So I think that's the thing that you mentioned is very important. And he also mentioned something that talks about knowing our products and being able to, to really speak about the specific advantage that our products have over others. And it reminded me, as a salesperson also that, okay, so I really need to get on my game in terms of that too, because basically with what I understood is he's saying that, so if we know our products well, we are able to tell the difference between one product and then the other product. And we are able to tell the customer that this is why they should choose our product over other products. So for me, that was like a really, really good point that he mentioned, that it's important to keep up to date or up to speed, on product knowledge in our company. So that was really cool. And in that chapter, there's another thing that he mentioned. Hey, Sumaila, I hope that you're doing well. Thanks so much. We are glad to have you here, right? And so that chapter, before I go to Sumaila, he mentioned an interesting thing about spending time with better prospects. And I was thinking that, so that's an interesting point, because I know that there are some leaders, some coaches that I follow on Instagram and who emphasize, the importance of actively finding better customers, and that they say that makes it easier, to run your business, and that, makes your profit lines better on a whole, right? I follow Dan Locke on Instagram. I follow Alex Homozi, right? And I think that both of them have said something along those lines, right? So I was thinking that, okay, so it means that all of us then need to, maybe use the 20 idea method to also find out how we can find the kind of customers that we want to have for our business, so that at the end of the day, we also make things easier for ourselves, right? And then it's easier to also accumulate the wealth we have. Of course, I don't think it means that we should, leave anyone out, but then we should also focus on, finding better customers, and then it will make our lives as salespeople easier in a way. Yeah. So having said that, let me go to Smiler. So Smiler, how has your week been, first of all? And then what are some lessons that you've gotten from the book?
Hello, Irene.
Hi, Smiler.
Good morning.
Good morning. How's your week been?
Yeah, the week has not been bad. Is it possible I talk in the next 5 minutes?
Yeah, sure. Totally
Okay,
fine.
great.
Totally fine.
So I'll talk in the next
bring
5
me back. Okay, sure. So you can just admit when you're ready. So maybe while Smiler wait, so maybe I'll share a few more points. And then he shared something in chapter 4, right, about the fact that we need to identify the hot buttons. And he was basically saying that in identifying the hot buttons, we should identify the things that customers really love about the product, and then see how we can emphasize them to the customers, when they come to buy, right? And maybe we should stress on that particular point. And then let me ask you at this point, right? Because I know that you do run a business as well, right? I don't know if you've gotten to chapter 4 yet, but then if you have, when you're reading that hot button part, what were you thinking of, right? Or like, are there any hot buttons that you've identified in your own products yourself that you think that it's because of this reason that customers come back to buy? Maybe you could share your experience along those lines, or with anything that I've shared from the chapter 4 so far.
Yeah, I have read the chapter 4, and then reading about the hot button, and then constantly referring to what catches the attention of the customer about our product. It gave me the impression of first it gave me the impression of, oh yeah, that's really true, because why would somebody want to buy something if the person doesn't have any like form of attraction to my product? Why would the person want to spend money and buy it? But then going into the book, you remember, I don't know if you remember the one about the real estate guy, the story about the real estate guy who had a cherry tree, tree in his house, and then the woman gave the story of why the way he kept mentioning the cherry tree every went to annoying to me. But then I get the point that is what the woman loved about the house. So he had to draw attention. He had to bring the attention back to the house so that like he's able to make that sale, because that was the one constant thing that he had to leverage. He had to leverage because the man kept finding faults, but then drawing attention back to the tree sent a light bulb off in the woman's head. So that was his leverage. So yeah, that's the kind of feel I got when I was reading. It has its peck, but then I feel like constantly mentioning the the hotspots, the peck about the product. I don't know. I feel the customer will feel irritated. If I were the customer, I'll feel irritated.
That man kept seeing the tree.
Yeah. So bringing it back to personal business experience, of course, why people what mostly works for my business is referrals, like mouth to mouth. It works for me more than the online presence and other forms of marketing, which I am grateful for, because then the mouth to mouth referral means that the customer who has already purchased from you gives the testimony on your behalf. You don't have to do a lot of work when the person referred comes to you, because the work has been done for you already. Somebody has already testified about your product. And so I think that does 90% of the work. Then the person comes and says, oh, I've heard about the quality of your product. I've heard about that your customer service is very good. So then you emphasize that. Yeah. So then I take that as leverage, and then actually emphasize my customer service to the person, follow through with the person, ask questions. You remember Brian also mentioned asking questions, taking the power, taking the control over the conversation, and then make sure you keep asking the questions, and actually know what the customer wants, because he mentioned that it is not about you, and mostly it's not about the products too. It is about the customer. Like maybe 90%, 95% is about the customer, and then their purchasing power. Yes, let me put it that way. The purchasing power. Everything has to go. All power has to go in making them actually make that purchasing decision. You have to do everything possible to make sure you get that money from them. So yeah, those are the things I got from that particular topic of reference. Yeah. I'll share more.
Awesome. And just as you mentioned, I think this thing that he said about asking the questions, I also noticed it, right? Like he was saying something about the spotlight, that if we are asking the customer questions, we are basically keeping the spotlight on them. But if we make ourselves the dominant person in the conversation, or make our product the dominant person in the conversation, apparently, as he's saying, that won't really be helpful, or that won't be useful to the seller at the end of the day. So, that was also another great reminder, I think, to every salesperson, because of course, we know that yes, our product is amazing, but then just as you're mentioning to you, it's not really about our product. It's about what it's going to do for the customer, and then, like whether they really feel that it's something that they need in their lives at that point. And then if we are able to ask them questions, I think it becomes easier to identify if it is what they need in their lives at that point. So yeah, so really, really great reminder to all of us. I mean, that's should I say phrase or something? WIIFM, what's in it for me? So I guess that throughout the sale, we need to be emphasizing what is in it for the customer, what are they going to get out of it, and then that could help to push our sales. So that was really a good reminder, reminder.
And I mean, to add to that,
Mhm.
I don't specifically remember which chapters or which
Yeah, sure.
points fall under which chapters, but then to add to that, I think I remember something he said that people make purchasing decisions based on various reasons and needs. So maybe a reason why Irene buys my products will not be the same reason why maybe Dr. Kelvin buys my products. So I have to find the specific need that is unique to you, Irene, and then actually drive that point home for you. And then while I'm with Dr. Kelvin trying to make a sale with him, find his specific need and reason for buying that product. So like, when you're sending a CV out, when you're sending a resume out, don't make it general. You tailor it to the job role that you're applying for. Yeah, I think that is what came to mind. So you tailor the presentation of your product, or the convincing narration of your product. Let me put, for lack of a better statement, that narration to the specific. So let's say Dr. Kelvin selling yam chips to me. The reason why I like yam chips, it might be different from, I might buy it for maybe convenience sake, or because it's already chopped. Yeah, but when you have to pay me for promotion.
Right? Everybody watching Facebook Live will see legacy food.
Legacy food. It's already chopped. The work has been done for me. So I just have to come back from work. If it's a deep fryer I'm using, it's electronic. I dump some in there, put the timer on, and by the time I finish winding down, it is ready, and I serve myself and everything. But when it comes to you, Irene, maybe it's the fact that you really like yam chips. So you would want to have that every day. Yes, so that is it. Apart from the focus being fully on the customer and how best to influence their decision. Yeah, we should also keep in mind that every need is different for everyone. And I remember he made another point that brought in mind something we read in Business Secrets of the Bible. It's not the same explanation, but he gave the fact that it's about specialization. I'm trying to remember what actually it is about specialization.
Is it like
when I remember
knowledge? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, when I remember, I'll jump in there. But people have joined, so I think, Irene, you can. Let's keep the ball rolling amongst ourselves.
Okay. Yeah, I know, right? We're having, this discussion, but I'm sure that it's also contributing, the discussion, that we're learning a lot amongst each other while waiting for everybody. Krista, good morning. How are you doing? How has your week been? I don't know if Crystal can hear. Maybe I'll go to Abdul Malik. Because Crystal hasn't unmuted. Okay, Abdul Malik, how are you doing today? How has your week been?
My week has been awesome. What about yours?
Awesome, fantastic. We are glad to know that. How has business been this week with the help of the psychology of selling?
Oh, business has been good,
Great.
Yes.
Great. That's good to know.
Yeah. So one of the things I've learned so far is with the goal setting. Yes. And as we said last week, this is something we have been seeing in most of the books, right? Yes, you have to set goals, yearly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, and daily goals. Yes. So when I also read it in this book, I was like, okay, then I have to take this thing serious. Yes. And one thing that came in mind was, though we should have yearly, monthly, and weekly and daily goals, the most important to me is the daily goals, because it's what you do daily that will add up to, to the weekly will add up to, yeah. So, because if you're not able to, do enough today, trust me, you see, success is cumulative. I don't know if you get me. Yeah. So what you do today, tomorrow, just adds up, and definitely it's you see the big success. Yeah. So that is one of the things I got from the book. And I think chapter 3, he was talking of who he was talking of who buys from you. I don't know if I'm
okay.
Yes, and he said customers buy for their own reasons, not yours. You the one selling to the customer, right? So we always have to put the customer first. What is the product going to do for them, right? Not what we are going to gain from the business transaction. Okay. So when we do that, definitely, and we can only do that by asking good questions, right? Yes. When you ask good questions, definitely you get to the needs of the customer. And when you're able to discover the needs of the customer, definitely you can make a sale. So these are the two things that I got from the book so far, and I think I'll leave it to you so that you continue. All right, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. So indeed, we should ask good questions so that we can identify why the customer, needs to buy from us, right? And then so that we don't make it all about us, because as it's emphasizing the book, if we make it about us anyway, the customer is not going to buy, right? So it's about them. Thank you so much for that great reminder. So true, Abdul. Let me see if Crystal is back. Crystal, good morning. Can you hear us? I don't know if Crystal can hear. Hi, Sumaila, are you back now? Maybe Sumaila will join us in a bit. But while we're waiting for Crystal, okay, Sumaila is back.
Yeah, Aren.
Okay, are you good to talk now? Where you are?
Sure. I'm good now.
Okay, perfect. Sure, perfect.
Okay, so I'll just jump from what Abdul Malik talked about.
Sure.
I think when I was reading it, that particular thing caught my attention, because he was like, you should find a way to let the customer do much talking, and then the talking should not be on you so much, else you end up seeing something that the customer really isn't even interested in. So that particular point, I was looking at it and I was trying to find a balance. Now I'm the one bringing the product and I need to sell the product to you. How do I get you talking? Another vein, he was talking about, don't be so fixated to talking about the product is this, the product is that and whatnot. So more or less, I got to appreciate the fact that he was trying to say that we should do a whole lot of research around whichever customer we are coming to talk to. So in doing so, I also saw in one of the pages, he talking about we trying as much as possible to make sure that we memorize our speech to the customers. By memorizing it and preparing to always talk to them, I also appreciated the fact that there's no one speech to all customers. So he tried to say that if you are putting together a speech, he has categorized the people. Like, I mean, there are some people that are like everybody and his or her needs. So you should be able to study the person, study who you are coming to engage, and then carve out a particular speech that will fit for that particular person. And for me, I actually saw that there's a whole lot of work that goes into selling, because once you don't get it right, most fortunately, you really wouldn't get the customer. So, but it is important that we really get the customer talking. So whatever trick you are going to use to get the customer to tell you one or two things, that is what you are going to step on and then be able to influence the customer to buy the product. But he even cited an example with a house that they went to buy. And then when they got into the house, the woman immediately talked about he liked the tree that was outside. So immediately the salesperson stepped on that. And that was the selling market strategy he used throughout. He talked about the kitchen there. He said the kitchen, you can even see the oak tree outside from the kitchen. They went upstairs. He talked about the tree again. You can see the tree from there. And then he also saw that the woman was a deciding figure, not the man. So once the woman likes the product, so he was now targeting the woman, but not actually the man. So sometimes when we go to do selling in a group, we sometimes need to also figure out an influential person among them that we know that if this person buy, most likely the majority of them are going to buy my product. So that was the learnings I got from that particular area. Then I also learned from the book, especially around the chapter 4, he was talking about you determining why customers are always buying from you, which I think is very, very important. Because once you have customers and they are purchasing your products, you need to consciously try as much as possible to get feedback from the customers. And it is this feedback that will help you to position you well in getting new customers. Because I saw that he even talked about you trying to get some testimonies from the customers that you could even share with your new prospective customers when you are going to sell. So in essence, I saw that it is very important that we get to know and appreciate why a particular customer is buying my product. So if you have varied people telling you their testimonies and why they are buying your product consistently, it is very much easy when you go to do your selling to even tell people why ABCD is buying from you. You tell them the reasons people are buying your product, the importance with which it comes with it, and all these things. But he also cautioned a little bit that when you are doing the talking, sometimes don't overdo it, else when you overdo it, you are even turning people off. Because when you over talk on something, sometimes a customer might be like, could it be that this guy is just trying to get a way to let me buy or something? So we try to caution in that particular regard. Then I also learned that when you book an appointment, he even talked about the struggle you need to go through to book appointments. Where it caught my attention more was the fact that when you eventually meet the person you have booked the appointment with, one, make sure that wherever you are meeting the person, it is devoid of noise so that you can hear each other. I also got the learning that, I also got the point that when you eventually meet the customer again, don't do the talking whilst you are standing, because nobody buys anything standing. Try as much as possible to let the person settle. You people sit down. Even if the person is in a hurry, he suggested that you can reschedule the appointment and meet the person again. But don't go ahead doing the talking when the person is standing, because that means the person is just in a hurry to listen to whatever you want to say and then go, and might not make any impact. And I also got a lesson that it is very important when you are reaching out to the customer, especially when you are trying to book an appointment, concentrate on the appointment and do not sell the product when you are booking the appointment. Because especially he was linking that to maybe you have done a telephone call or whatever. And then he said that it is always important that you don't sell the product immediately. Try to tell the person why it is important for you to meet face to face, for the person to see the product, for you to. So sometimes it helps a lot when you do that. But he also cautioned that there are instances that you need to do online marketing, and that one makes sense that sometimes you sell the product online. So he tried to differentiate that. So depending on the product you are selling, I think in essence, he was trying to tell us that there's no one formula to doing it, but he has given us the guide, and all this guide I think is very instrumental and very important to we being able to make a lot of sales. One other thing that caught my attention was dressing. He talked about dressing, the way you appear. And I can tell you that the way you appear in front of me can be a turn-off for me once we meet. For instance, if you are selling clothing to me and I come see you, maybe you bring the clothing and you yourself is looking wretched, I just wonder how I'll be interested in that.
Yeah.
You are selling food products to me. Probably, let's just say those that sell this fish and then, the Amani fish and those stuff that they move around to sell. And then your appearance alone is not looking good. If I want to see you, it translates to my thinking. Could it be that, that's how dirty she has been taking care of the product and all these things? So, of course, that's food. So I'll be asking myself, if I buy this, am I not risking? So yes, neatness. So for me, I stepped up from just being dressing neat, but also looked at neat. I mean, your appearance, your surrounding to be very neat. Once it is neat, it talks to the customer. Whoever you are talking to, that person learns that no, that means this person is serious. But I think he related it more to say that the way you appear would either let the people listen to you or maybe even ignore what you are bringing on board. So it is important that, as much as we are doing sales, we look at our dressing. And then, in fact, don't dress to scare the customer as well. Because if you dress, I'm sure you will scare the customer off. So that was also another thing I learned. And the last thing I would like to share has to do with the fact that he talked about we being cautious with whoever we are meeting. And then here he was talking about the appointment angle. That you go to for instance, you have booked an appointment with somebody and you are meeting the person at the office. You go to the office, you don't know who the receptionist is. You don't know how influential the receptionist is. You don't know how influential the gate man is. You never know how influential the cleaner is at the place. Make sure you treat the person good. And that was a very big learning for me because this is very, very important. I'm just making reference back to this saga with GS, the placement thing. You could see that it's a cleaner who has been connecting the people to do the placement, not any other person in the office. So for instance, you go probably, maybe that was on a bad. Hey, can you people allow me to finish my course? I know you want to write, but allow me to also finish this. And you also write in silent.
Imagine that.
Yeah, so write, but write in silent. Don't be making noise, okay? Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah. So what I got there was the fact that sometimes you go to a place and then these people that you are actually looking down upon are the influential people that can even get you the market. that can get you the results you need. So if you don't treat them fairly and then they reject your product, just know very well that those targets you are looking at are also looking up to the person for you to be successful or not. So for me, that was a very key takeaway. And then it tells us that in sales, don't leave any stone unattended. Don't even give chance to anything that this one might not fetch you the sales. You might be very surprised that is even where the bigger sales are. And I think I've seen a lot of videos in that regard, whereby a Richard person walks into a very big car selling factory, and then they are like, no, you cannot buy this kind of cars, move away and all these things. Meanwhile, the person can even buy the entire garage. So I think it's a big lesson when it comes to doing sales. And no matter who the person is, don't just give it a try and make sure that you respect the person. You might be sure that the person is really rich and will be able to buy your product. So I think I've been talking a lot, Irene. So I think I'll pause here so that colleagues can also add.
No, you've not been talking a lot. You shared a lot of important information with us. Thank you so much, for emphasizing the importance of really treating everybody right when you go to the place. Because as you are saying, you never know who is the deciding person. So it's very important to be conscious about this. And then I think generally in life, right, even aside from sales, it's important to be really conscious about how we treat people. So thank you so much for sharing that, Sumaila. Christo, are you there? Maybe you can share some lessons that you've gotten so far with us.
Hello.
Hi, Christo. Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. Good morning. How are you?
Okay, I think good morning. I'm fine.
Great.
How are you all doing?
We are fine by His grace.
Okay. All right.
Sure.
So I think what's been shared so far, it's powerful and it's very true. And what I'm also gathering so far is also powerful. And it says that one, to be able to sell, you the salesperson, you have to concept of yourself that you can sell. Okay, I think in chapter 2, spoke about sell. Well, he didn't have any experience, but he joined.
We didn't catch the last sentence. Can you please? You said in chapter 2, then you got cut off.
Yes. I think he was talking about a gentleman. I think it's a chapter, okay. About a gentleman who was not selling at all. He didn't have much experience. And then the company interviewed him. Then he joined the business. He joined and then started selling. Now, within 6 months, he started selling than everybody else. And they were wondering what was happening to him, what was making him sell more. So they sat him down, interviewed him. Then he started saying that before he went, there were certain things that he was doing. He was doing self-affirmation. Then he saw himself selling better with the customer. Then he rehearsed the whole thing in his mind before even going. So every time he went, he had seen himself in a certain situation too. He saw himself outside the situation. So like he realized the whole thing, but he was seeing himself like standing outside the whole conversation and the interaction with the customer and was observing what was going on. And that was helping him to actually sell. And then where he was telling himself that he likes himself, he believes in himself and all that, it was working on his psyche. He was working on his mind and getting him to know that he has the ability to be able to sell. Okay. And then I think it is very, very important that we are able to condition ourselves and see ourselves as successful even before we go to the sale. It means that before you approach the customer, you should rehearse the whole thing, how it's going to go and how you are going to sell the deal and how excited you will be and how the customer will be excited and all that. we should be able to rehearse that in our mind. I think most of the time, in our mind, sometimes maybe the product we are selling, we see that it is expensive. So even when the customer is asking you, in your mind, you are saying that if I tell this customer this price, will the customer be able to buy? And then you see that we begin to even defeat ourselves even before the selling process even starts. Okay, so we should be able to work on our mind and make sure that, Charlie, everything is okay up there. Sell everything, sell the process, and be successful in our mind even before we go to the customer. And then I think that the chapter 3 I started reading, it says that customers don't buy because of the reasons we give them. They buy because of their own reasons. And therefore, we should get into the mind of the customer and think like the customer and be able to know what the customer is thinking to be able to sell to the customer successfully, because the customer has his own reasons. And the book, he listed a lot of other, some of the things that the customer looks at the emotional aspect. Then he looks at the people also helping the person to take a decision, because sometimes the customer doesn't buy because he wants. There are other people who are also a factor in the decision process. And so the customer looks at that. And then the customer also looks at what is in it for him, for himself. So we should be able to get into the mind of the customer and be able to know all these things. So before we even start selling, we should be able to ask questions and be able to qualify the customer and find out if the product you have fits his need and how you can be able to adapt your product to be able to meet those needs. And then the sale can happen. Okay, so it is very, very important that when we want to sell, we take into consideration the benefits the customer is looking for. Then it can help us to be able to make a successful sale. All right, so that's the bit I've gotten from the book so far. Thank you very much, Irene.
Thank you so much, Crystal. And then just as you said, we need to find ways to emphasize on the benefits, right? Of course, the benefits that the customer wants, as you've mentioned. Yeah. And I think Sumaila and then Theophilus, you mentioned the man who was going to sell the house, and then, he kept on emphasizing to the wife and the people who were coming to buy, the wife and the party who were coming to buy, that, there's this red cherry tree or something like that. And so they should buy the house because of that. So just as, we've all said, I think it's a very important reminder that it's not about us. We may know our products, we may have, as Crystal said, we may psych our minds and everything. But at the end of the day, it's also important to have the customer into account, and then not only go in there and speak about ourselves, right? Because as we've all been saying, that's not what is going to get us to get the sale at the end of the day. So thank you so much. And there was something which he mentioned in chapter 5, which Abdul touched on as well. Abdul spoke about the importance of setting the daily goals. And in chapter 5, he said something that great salespeople actually know the number of people they must call daily to achieve their sales goals, right? So with the way that he's saying, it's like it's not just anyhow, should I say, the students say it that way, right? But then like really, really, really knowing what it takes to get to our goals at the end of the day, right? And so I was like, wow, that's pretty specific, and it's a reminder to all of us that we should be very conscious about the sales process, right? If we are to succeed in the sales industry as much as possible, we need to be very particular about things like these, right? Really noting down what we have to do in the day in order to get to, our quota at the end of the day. So that was a really great reminder to me. As Theophila is saying, it's a course, right? Brian Tracy has written a whole sales course for us, and it's a very good book for us to go back to, and then really imbibe, right? Really imbibe so that we can become those top 10%. You said what? This got the top 4%, right? I think first you said there's the top 20, that we should get into the top of that 20 or something. So the top 4%. So I know that all of us want to get in the top 20, top 4%, right? And then before we wrap up, I'd like to ask maybe anybody has any practical experience that they would like to share, of how they're making their sales work, or while we're speaking, any other final words that came to your mind that you'd like to share, from Lolonyo to Abdul Malik, Smiler, Chris. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us from the book?
Okay, to share a little.
Mhm.
I remember there's a product we're dealing with, and then recently prices were
This is, since you're a bit far, are you far from your phone? Your
No,
voice
I'm saying
very-
okay. Sorry, I'm using headphone. Okay,
Okay.
I was saying that there's a product we are selling. Okay, I'm dealing with it. The products were really increased astronomically recently, and then there was a hue and cry about the increase, and people were complaining and all that. So recently I was really thinking about the whole process. Then I realized that look, even in Ghana, things are hard, but people are still buying cars. And my product, this product in question, it cannot be compared to the price of a car. So if people are still buying cars, then it means as my product is not expensive, and people should be able to buy. And so I decided not to join the complaining gang, but to rather change my mind and believe that once people are still buying cars, then my product, it's not even half of the price of a car. It's not even even if you divide the price of a car and you compare it to the price of my product, it's not even anywhere near it. It's just a fraction.
So true.
It's just a fraction, and people are still buying cars. So if people are buying cars, my product, people should be able to buy. I just have to get to the people who need the product and be able to buy the product. No matter what the price of the product, there are people out there who will buy. People still buy Lamborghini. People buy Ferrari. They are different brands of car. They are all cars. They move. They take you from one destination to the other. But they've categorized it in a different market, targeting different people. And those people, those very people buy.
They do.
So it's just pointing me back to the mind thing. It's the whole thing works with the mind. If in your mind you are saying that the thing won't work, it won't work. Your mind, even it says it in part of one of the chapters, it talks about the subconsciousness. What you feed your mind will eventually produce. So if you are telling your mind that, look, this won't work, this is too expensive, this won't work, definitely that's the result you will get. But if you keep telling your mind, you're feeding your mind with positive things and saying that, look, this is going to work, you like yourself, you are the best salesman, you are the best at what you do or what you sell, it's eventually going to produce the results for you. And by the grace of God, as my thoughts have been like that, it's actually bringing the people who will buy the product to buy. So it's just that the sales have slowed a bit, but the people who will buy are buying. Yeah. So that's the bit I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you so much for adding that piece too. That was very important. So, as you're saying, it boils down to our mindset, right? And then, asking ourselves, okay, so the thing really expensive. That was such a great example that you brought about the fact that people are buying even cars, and this can't be compared to cars. So thank you so much for sharing that. Maybe I'll ask you, what are your final words for today?
Yeah, Irene, I side with Crystal very well. The work has to begin with the self. And by beginning with self, you begin with the mindset. Mindset is basically everything. It's the foundation of everything, no matter which facet of your life you want to look at. It has to do with mindset fit. So it's the foundation. You have to really work on that to be able to work on anything that is outside of the self mindset. So I really, really side with that one. My final input for today's session, I would say focus on offering value. Brian mentioned it in the book, a part of the book. Focus on offering value. Once you start offering value, you will attract the people. The people themselves will come to you. I don't so much like the idea of cold calling, which I learned. I think I learned it. I first learned it in the previous book, Millionaire Next Door. Yeah. But I think that it's one of the strategies marketers use, but it's not something I like so much. So I would rather subscribe to offering value and then let the value speak for my product, and then in turn draw more customers, draw the right people to me. Because when the right people come to you, you realize that they don't complain much. I realize that I have two categories of customers. They are the ones who come like the products. By the way, I'm into fashion accessories, so bags, beaded accessories, and things like that. So you attract both male and female, because male want to buy for their girlfriends, their moms, and things like that. There are two categories of people. There are the ones who come and then they look at the product, they see the value of it, they see the originality of it. Yes, they complain and complain. There are also those who come, they see it and they identify like the value in it. They see the value in it. That's this is like actually value for my money. So they don't really complain. There are a couple of times that I've worked for people and then they actually pay me more than the value of the product, or more than the price on the product. Those are the kind of customers I want.
You see, what if you find better customers or something? You said there was something like that in the book.
Yes. There's something like that. So focus on offering value. The value in turn attracts the right customers to you. And so that is what I'm going to focus on. When, of course, I can't really ignore or deny the other category of people who come, but then I would push more power into focusing on those who come and actually buy and actually even pay me more than the price or the worth of the item. So that's the final input I'll make, that you should focus on offering value. And even at the workplace, not only regarding business, at the workplace, you realize that once you keep increasing your value, it's hard for your employer to let go of you. Once you keep increasing your value, it's hard for people to let go of you. People always want you in their meetings. People always want you in the process of every process of the project.
The organization.
The organization. So value is a very important aspect of life. So those are my inputs.
Thank you so much. Value is an important aspect of life, and we should concentrate on giving value to customers, right? And then, as you said, we should find the customers who will pay us very, very well. In addition, she said we shouldn't forsake anybody, forsaking goods, but we should also concentrate our efforts on customers who pay us a whole lot. Maybe let me ask Abdul Malik for any final words that he has before we go and then launch into our Saturday. Abdul Malik, is there anything final that you'd like to share with us? Okay, I don't know if Abdul Malik is there, but then I'd like to say thank you all so much. It's been a great discussion, good reminders about psychology, great reminders about, emphasizing on what the customer needs instead of what we need, because it's not about us at the end of the day, right? And Sumaila gave us very important reminders about when we go into the workplace or into that place where we are going to sell, really making sure that we are treating everybody well, right? We are treating everybody as we should, right? And then generally in life, we're treating everybody as we should. And then, having that mindset and then affirming. I think that at the point Brian Tracy mentioned some affirmations. Crystal too mentioned, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, right? And the book is really a good book, right? I'm sure that even after we are done reading it for book club, we'll definitely have to go back to it once in a while so that yes, we can become among the top 4% of salespeople. And so on that note, I want to say thank you all so much for joining. Next week, we'll be doing chapter, this 7 and 8, right? I think Krista is leading us next week on chapter 7 and 8, and then we'll be wrapping the book up. So let's go and then read it. Let's go and apply it. Of course, as we've been saying, it's about the application, right? We need to find different ways to actually apply it, different ways to track our activities, our sales activities, and then, really excel in our sales profession. Crystal, Amita, do you want to say something before we go?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. So on that note, thank you all so much, everybody. Have an amazing weekend and amazing week. See you next Saturday. Goodbye.
See you, Irene. Thank you for the wonderful
Bye.
session.
Sure. Thank you all. Thank you all too for coming. It's been a good discussion with you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Sure. Bye.